Hi, everyone. Welcome to Confidently Be You. My name is Jennifer Shlomovich, and today I'm going to be talking about keeping it all together as a working mom with my special guest, Shayna Bergman. Shayna is a passionate, results-oriented coach who empowers motivated individuals to unlock their potential. She has a proven track record of helping people to achieve deeper meaning and fulfillment in their personal and professional lives through authentic leadership and clarity of purpose. With a focus on parents in executive and leadership positions, Shayna challenges her clients to look deeply at themselves by reflecting on their values, dreams, limiting beliefs, and inner critics. She then helps them create an action plan that inspires breakthroughs and leads to sustainable change. Known for her perceptiveness, insights, and ability to speak the truth to leaders at all levels, Shayna's most successful clients are those who are dedicated to evolving their best selves and fostering that growth in others. Shayna, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. We connected a couple months ago, so it's nice that we were finally able to get our schedules to align and
Couldn't agree more.
have this great conversation. So before we dive into our topic, what inspired you to get into the work that you do?
So it's kind of funny, maybe a little silly, but when I was a little girl, when I was like 3 years old, I would take road trips with my parents. I'd be in the back of their station wagon. And while most kids were listening to like Rafi, Baby Beluga, that kind of kids music.
I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that? Most kids were listening to that. I was listening to Anthony Robbins because that's what my parents were listening to as business owners.
Wow.
So it wasn't by choice, but I think just something happened over time, hearing it and hearing it and hearing it, that I kind of at a very early age was sort of fascinated by how people were motivated and what made them tick, and especially how they found fulfillment and purpose and joy and happiness at work, in their personal lives, and how they were able to really cultivate and develop their inner strengths. And so it sounds silly, but that sort of interest started at a very, very early age. And so it led me down this path of pursuing human resources, strategic human resources, which is what my career has been. But also having that sort of passion for coaching and understanding executive coaching. And so that's how I sort of transitioned my human resources career into an executive and leadership coaching business.
That's awesome. So it's interesting how from a little girl you had these seeds planted.
Weird seeds, probably, but yes, I had seeds.
Weird but good seeds.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So thanks for sharing that. And so, yeah, so today we're talking about a really big topic, which is, keeping it together as a working mom. Now, all moms, whether I'm going to put this disclaimer out there, all moms have various challenges, whether you're working or not working. But I only know what it's like to be a working mom. So that's the only experience I can share. And so that for me, and I think both groups, no group is better than the other. It's different set of challenges.
Yes.
You have a different set of challenges, whatever group you fall into in motherhood. But whatever it is, motherhood is hard.
Yes, it is. Amen. Yes.
So what are some of the common experiences that working moms have that they struggle with?
Yeah, well, I think it ranges a lot. So I, like you, I'm a full-time mom of two little kids.
Mm-hmm.
And really for their whole lives, I've been working in a corporate space. And so a lot of it, I think, has to do with just the time that we're able to give to our families. It's like I see them in the morning, I get them off to school, and then I see them at night when I give them dinner and give them a bath and put them to bed. And so I think for a lot of those of us who are working full time, and especially those of us maybe who are even out of the house, I think that that's a really, really big component. I think that there's this other piece of it, which is, and I see this in my clients, it's like I've walked in their shoes. I can think of times when like I went to the office in my suit with spit up down my back, right? It's like I think of the times when I have a sick child at home and I'm also supposed to be giving a presentation that day. And so there's this like constant shifting of hats that we're constantly having to deal with. And some days you're just mom and you're home and it's a weekend and you get to just kind of relax and unwind. And some days you're sort of corporate mom. And then some days you're sort of trying to figure out how to juggle both of those and show up fully for both of those And I think that's very hard for people to do, myself included. There's no magic pill to take to make it all seamless. But I honestly think that's a really, really big piece of it too.
Definitely can relate to that. Like my son is a teenager, almost done with high school. He'll be a senior next school year. So, but when he was younger, I went through a divorce when he was 4, so I had to juggle being a single mom and co-parenting. And then I eventually got remarried, and my husband has 2 boys, so it was working on the blended family piece on that. And then at the time they were younger too, so it was juggling all of that while working full time. And then I was also going through some career transition stuff at the time as well. So you feel like you're pulled in a million different directions. It's like a mental tug of war of where your mind goes. And then I remember feeling a lot of guilt. I still deal with this sometimes too, but I've been working on it. It's just that guilt when you just don't do anything productive except just do something relaxing or have fun. Unless it's fun with a family. I think a lot of us moms, a lot of the moms I have spoken to and coached with, there's this like mom guilt of, oh my God, I need to be doing something productive with my time.
Mhm.
But if we don't have that like time to just give ourselves little mini, even if it's just little mini timeouts, I feel like we eventually fall apart.
I could not agree more. I think that's spot on. And I think we wouldn't be human if we didn't have some of that guilt. And I think along with that, there's also that kind of that mental load term, right? We all have this mental load of not only are we juggling whatever's going on personally and professionally, but then we've got like the laundry to do and that bill to
Mhm.
pay and that birthday party that we've got to get a gift for. I think of it actually as like the mother load, right? It's the mother
Yeah.
load. There's just so much stuff. So I think what you said is spot on with sort of that pull. And I think at the same time, and this is sometimes easier said than done, but there's that saying you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think that's
Yeah.
true. And so while, yes, I also have that guilt of I shouldn't be relaxing, I should be, doing something in the house, I should be cleaning the dishes, I should be working on my presentation. I also recognize, at least for me, that sometimes it's when I take that breath, I take that step back, that I can show up better for my family, for my job, for myself, right? It's like you kind of need that break to be able to replenish a little bit.
Absolutely. And I used to make the mistake of waiting till I would fall apart before, because I have a high threshold of stress, and I know a lot of other moms who do too. So it's kind of like, oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. I could take care of this. I could just push on, push on, push on. And then the next thing you know, you wake up one morning, and at least for me, there's been times where it'd be like, after a month, a couple of months of just keep going and going, like, oh my God, I don't want to get out of bed. And you got to really like push through. And one of the things that I've been working more so on myself over the years, especially it's gotten easier as my son's older, but even when he's younger, is just starting to find ways to sneak in little pockets of time for myself.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to a coffee shop for 30 minutes with my journal and just having my own space for 30 minutes, or even in the bedroom where I've told my family, hey, I'm meditating, I shut the bedroom door and I have 30 minutes to myself. And if you can plug in 30 minutes, 10 minutes, wherever you can throughout the week, that's just yours, that's not, not needing to be allocated to anything specific. I've noticed that that's helped me um, not have those burnout like that, those like burnouts that build up over time.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. And I give you so much credit for knowing that about yourself and doing that. Because I think that's sometimes just the hardest part is giving ourselves permission to take
Yeah.
that space that we need. And similar to you, like I now know, and it's taken me time and it hasn't been perfect, but I now know what I need. And like you, it's finding that sort of space in my day. So I like to be physical. I like to move. I like to exercise. So whether that's going for a walk, whether that's I have the Peloton app, which I love, whether it's doing a little hit and cardio and some strength training, or sometimes it's like a 10-minute power nap. It's something short, but I know that it refuels me. And then I know when I'm feeling cranky or I'm feeling kind of tired or I'm feeling, whatever it might be, that's like a quick jolt for me to sort of be like, okay, I'm ready to go again. But it took me sort of time and burnout to get to that place of saying, what is it that I need? And giving myself the permission to say, if I don't do these things, I'm not going to feel good. I'm not going to feel productive. I'm not going to feel I'm not showing up as the best employee. I'm not showing up as the best owner. I'm not showing up as the best mom or wife or friend, right? It's like
Mhm.
really finding that it's okay to do that.
I love what you just said about asking yourself, what is it that I need? Because that can change day by day, week by week. And also as your kids go through different stages, when they're young, when they're infants, they're very, very demanding. And then as time goes on, their needs change, our needs change, responsibilities change, which brings me to the other part I want to talk about is mom identity shifts.
Mhm.
I think that's a big one because our kids go through different phases and we go through different phases. Sometimes I know moms who've stayed home until kids go to school. And then there's that identity shift of going back to work after, taking care of your kid for a certain period of time. So there's a lot of different identity shifts that we go through as moms. So what would you like to share about your experiences with that?
Yeah, it's funny as we're talking about that, I think of like you go through that phase before you're a mom and it's like, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant. And then it's like, I really want to have a kid. I really want to have a kid. And however your child comes to you, right? However that happens, that in and of itself is huge when all of a sudden, like now you're about to be a mom. And then
Mhm.
you become like everything to a baby. If you have a baby, right, you become everything to them. Maybe you're their food source, you're their comfort, you're everything. And then maybe you go back to work and now all of a sudden you're a working mom. And then on the weekends or at night, you're a soccer mom. And then, right, it's like that's constantly changing. Plus, you're probably also trying to be like cool mom with your friends. Like, I can still hang, I can still go out, I'm not tired. And then
Yeah.
still showing up maybe for like a partner as sexy mom and like trying to be in that space too. And we're asked to constantly be pivoting and shifting, sometimes on a dime, which I think we get used to. But at the same time, I think sometimes we lose touch with just who we are at our core. When you sort of
Mhm.
strip all of that away, like, who am I? What do I really like to do? What brings me joy? Who am I when there aren't all the expectations that sort of maybe society places on us that we place on ourselves? And so I think that's a big piece of it too, is trying to really uncover that.
What you just said, I've heard many times is not knowing who you are outside of a mom. Like you kind of forget who you are,
Mhm.
or you've just been so busy that you've kind of set things aside. You feel disconnected. You can feel disconnected from friends, especially if your friends either have kids at a different age stage or the friends who don't have children.
Mhm.
So there's those adjustments with friendships. There's adjustments with your partner because who you are as a couple before having kids is very different than who you are as a couple when you have kids. So it is a very delicate balancing act, not to mention also the identity with body, because carrying children can, everyone's bodies reacts differently to that experience. And so that can also create a lot of identity shifts as well. And I feel like there's just a lot of pressure to just keep it all together, which is what we're talking about too. Is just, and I think in a lot of mom circles as well, especially on social media mom circles, everyone's only going to show the highlight reel, right? They're not going to show the messy, falling apart stuff.
That's right.
But it's so easy to think that someone else has it all together based on their highlight reel.
That's right.
And I don't think anybody has it all together at all.
I couldn't agree more. And I think sometimes it's finding comfort in being vulnerable that that's the case. And I'll
Yeah.
give you a perfect example. So right now you see the space that I'm in. It probably looks really nice, but if I were to move my camera, you'd see toys over here, you'd see stuff over here, right? Like we curate what we put out into the world, and then there's
Yeah.
sort of the reality of what's happening. And I think that there's really a beauty in all of it that we've sort of lost sight of because that's not become what's in our faces anymore. And so that's why I think it's important for people to sort of figure out like where is that space where they can just be and not have to be on. It's like whether it's your partner or your family or your kids or your group of girlfriends, or maybe it's colleagues, to really find who are the people that love you for all of you just as you are, without all of the makeup and the pretty furniture and the perfect lighting and the
Mhm.
perfect ice cream sundae and the perfect dinner and whatever it is. Because maybe there are moments of that and that's fun. And also the messy stuff is also sometimes just as fun.
Absolutely. Like I can look back now at various messy phases and stages, and they're learning experiences. I try to learn from everything, even though I might not be happy in the moment of something that's going on. A couple of years later, I can look back at it and get some type of value from the situation, or you just learn how to get navigate these things better. And listen, kids don't come with instructions.
Mm.
Everyone's kid is different, different needs. Sometimes there's other challenges that can come along, and so it's finding ways to embrace that messiness and whatever your unique situation is in parenthood for what it is, and not get caught up in what so and so is doing. Um, I know another area, especially with the younger kids, is the birthday parties too. Like that can be a whole other nightmare for parents, comparing pressure, money, all of those different things. So yeah, when it comes to just circling back to identity, there's all these different phases. And then also, which is a phase I'm going to be embarking on soon, is the empty nester phase. Like you're so used to being with your child all the time, and then they start going off into becoming mini adults.
Right.
And that's a whole other identity shift too, that I guess I'll see what that's like
Yeah.
next year. But that's something I've already been thinking about. Is me and my husband have been thinking about, like, what's that next stage going to be looking like, and what's my role as a parent, because now they're an adult. So you want to hope that our kids are making good decisions. You got to hope you teach them what you can, and then you hope for the best. But that's another thing too that I'm sure is going to be an adjustment, because you're a big part of their life for 18 years, and then all of a sudden they're in charge of their choices.
That's right. And it's almost like you've settled into a certain identity and now you're being asked again to sort of revisit, like, okay, well, now who am I when they're not home every day? And now they're, like you said, they're mini adults. And it's sort of we're constantly evolving, I think, in this
Yeah,
space. And I always say it's like just when you think you've figured them out or you figured yourself out, it changes again.
absolutely.
Right? Like we become really resilient as moms because we're just constantly asked to revisit who we are and what our relationship is like with our kids. And then you also have the complexities of the other relationships that you have, the other intimate relationships, be it with parents, be it with spouses, be it with friends, and how
Mhm.
those change as your children change and how their friends change. It's just like it's constantly moving. And I think you said something interesting, which is like you kind of learn through it. And I think that's a lot of the perspective shifting that, that we do with clients, right? Is the idea
Mhm.
that, yeah, it might seem bad right now or hard or sad or whatever it is. And it is those things. And also there's always something you're learning through it. And it's really trying to figure out, like, what am I learning right now? What is this teaching me? And I'll share with you, my mom always said to me and says to me, everything's a phase. So I'll call her and say,
Yeah,
like, my daughter's driving me nuts. She's talking back to me, right? Whatever it is. And I hear everything's a phase. And sure enough, that goes away. And then the next thing starts. And so it's just like, okay, what did I learn from that? Maybe it's patience. Okay, how can I take that into what's coming next?
I like that. Absolutely. Everything's a phase, whether it's with our kids, with ourselves. There's certain things that I'm not into anymore that I was into when I was in high school and college. So
Exactly.
we're on an ongoing journey of phases for
That's it.
sure.
That's it.
And so what tips would you recommend to help moms restore that balance into their lives?
Yeah. So, what I'll say is, I think we all have the resources at our fingertips. And sometimes I think it's really a little bit more basic than maybe we make it out to be. And let me say too, and I think you said this earlier, it's different for everybody, right? There's no one size fits all. And I think so much of it is uncovering a little bit like who am I as a mom? Who are you as a mom? But even within that, I'd say that there are three things that I'd recommend. So the first one is what I call keeping score. And so score is an acronym for me. S stands for sun. So I think getting outside is really important. The C stands for calm or rest.
Hmm.
The O stands for oxygen. So breathing, moving your body. The R stands for rehydrating. So making sure you're drinking enough water. And the E stands for eating right. And that for me is like keeping score. What is my checklist? Like those are the most basic things sometimes that I think help us just function that we so easily lose sight of when we're constantly pouring and giving to everybody else. So that would be number one, although I know that was a lot of things at number one, but keeping score is number one.
I just really, first, I just want to say I love that. I just jotted that down because I really love that because
Thank
that's such
you.
an easy way to, like, hey, did I get some sun? Did I have some calm time for myself? Oxygen, rehydration, eating. If we don't take care of ourselves on those very basic things, then that's when we start eating, not eating right, which makes us more tired. And then we get annoyed with ourselves because we didn't eat right and we're tired.
Mhm.
And it's like
It's
this
a
whole
cycle.
cycle. So I just really love that. I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to
Yeah, so
share
that's
that.
one. And to your point, it's like when I'm feeling off or I'm feeling like something's not right, I sometimes have to say, like, I didn't get outside yet. Let me just go stand outside. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm ready to go. I feel
Yeah.
better. So that's a big one. The second one I would say is support. So
Mhm.
who do you have around you? Again, whether it's a partner, a spouse, friends, whether it's your kids, whether it's your close group of girlfriends, it's who do you have around you where you can, as I said earlier, really just be you? Because I think because we're constantly, it feels like we're constantly curating, we're constantly having to be on, we're constantly having to keep it together. That can be very draining and exhausting. And while I think it's important over time to sort of learn to find that authentic side and really just be comfortable being you, that confidence that you talk about with so many of your guests that I think is so important. I do think that it's important to have just people that you can talk to, that you can go to, and
Absolutely.
who love you no matter what and will be there for you when you're crying, and who will be laughing with you when you're ready to laugh, and who will cheerlead your dreams and who will hold you accountable, all those things. So that would be number two, is support. And then the third one I think is really, I'll talk about this for a moment, I think is hiring a coach. And I'm going to be real vulnerable here for a moment. I believed in coaching since I was 3. As I said, I believe in the concept. It's what my master's is in, it's what I've studied. I didn't have my own coach until a year ago. Even though I
Mhm.
believed in it, I felt like, well, I don't need one. Like, I'm fine, I'm good. And then I got myself a coach. And I look back now and think, like, wow, so many of the struggles that felt like I was on alone, so many of the dreams that I had that I put on hold, I had no idea that sort of having that partnership, that person to kind of ask you the right questions, to hold space for you in a way that's objective and different from your friends, from your spouse, et cetera, how powerful that can be. And so now to me, that's like a no brainer part of my life because it allows me to break through those natural barriers that we put up. It allows me to think about, especially in the space of being a mom and all the complexities that come along with being a working mom, how I can show up as my best self, as an owner, as a mother, as much as possible, which isn't all the time, but it allows me to start to have that space to play and to sort of figure that out.
I love that. All very important things. And yeah, because you know what? Coaches need coaches. We
Yes,
have our own blind spots.
we're not perfect. Yes.
Yeah, no, actually, I met with a coach today who I meet with from time to time, and it helped clarify some things that I was stuck in my head about. So it's absolutely important to have that. So I love your list, and there's just a couple of others I want to add on to the support piece, as sometimes like I moved to another city, like I'm in New York City, and at one point I moved from another city, and so sometimes you don't have a lot of support locally. And a great way to connect with other like-minded people is through meetup.com. There's a lot of mom groups that you can find. And if there isn't one in your area, you can always create one.
Exactly. And moms are very resourceful, so they
And
can do
moms are
that.
very resourceful. And also Facebook. There's a lot of mom groups on Facebook. So having if you don't have a lot of local support, whether it's family and friends, whatever the circumstances might be, you can create that for yourself by finding groups either on Meetup or Facebook or through some other neighborhood resource, maybe. Just being able to connect with like-minded people who can understand you and who just create that space for you, things you may not want to vent about to a partner, especially, or a parent, things that maybe you just need someone outside of your immediate circle sometimes to talk about, that can be helpful. And the other piece that I want to just add is also therapy.
Mhm.
Therapy has been a very important part of my life through various phases I've gone through. And it also partners well with coaching because I hadn't been to therapy in a long time, but then when I was going through the coaching program, and all of a sudden, like coaching, you're peeling layers, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my god, what is this? I thought I worked this all out.
Yeah.
And so therapy is a great thing to, if it's something that you haven't utilized, if someone hasn't utilized it, there's no shame in getting that mental health support
Yes.
because it can make such a huge impact in your overall well-being. And just having that person who's outside of your immediate circle to provide that support for you, I think is also very critical if you feel like that's something that's needed.
I could not agree more. I think that's spot on. And thankfully, I mean, the world of mental health is so much more out there and accepted now, thankfully, that I just feel like it's an amazing resource to have that.
Mhm.
And I think to your point, a lot of people do pair the two, right? Because you have that opportunity to sort of process almost backwards what's going on, what happened, why is this the case? And then
Yeah.
you've got the coach to sort of help you say, okay, well, how can I dream now and take that, what I've done and what the gunk I'm kind of getting rid of, and now move it forward into what it is that I want. And to your point about Facebook and the meetup groups, and Nextdoor has groups as well. I love what you said because we talked a little bit about sort of the curated images that you see. And
Hmm.
maybe that's, I don't know if it's a negative side, but it's a side of social media. But there is the other side of bringing community together. And however that happens, I think it allows, to your point, moms a space to find other, sometimes like minded and sometimes differently minded people too, where you get to sort of see a cross section of
Yeah.
different people's experiences because no two moms are alike. Our backgrounds are all different. Right. And I think while we sometimes come forth with that sort of surface level, more shallow side of who we are when we meet somebody like our representative, I think there's that opportunity among moms to sort of peel that back pretty quickly and get to sort of the core of who you are and know that you're not on this journey alone.
I love that. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more on all of that. And yeah, and now therapy's evolved so much. You have services like BetterHelp
Yeah.
where you can be virtual.
Hmm.
So if you have, an hour that you can go hide in a bedroom or something on a tablet or your phone or computer, you don't have to worry about leaving the house and commuting someplace to have that therapeutic support. So
Exactly.
it
There's even
definitely has come a long
texting.
way.
There's texting therapy now too. I mean, it's like you
Right.
could really, there's no excuse if that's something that you want to pursue. There's so many different ways that you can get that support. So I love that comment. Yeah.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, this has been a really wonderful conversation. I'm so glad that we've had a chance to sit down and talk about this really important topic.
Yes.
Um, Before we wrap up, what are some resources that you would like to recommend?
So I would say, in addition to what we talked about, I think that, again, everybody is a little bit different, but I think it's really sort of peeling back, uncovering with somebody, what is it that you as an individual need? I really think that's it because we all need different things. Some of us relax and find the refueling through getting a massage. Others might say it's reading a book. Others might say it's being completely alone with nobody hanging on them, no tushies to wipe. Where somebody else might say, I want to be with a lot of people. I want to go to a concert and just feel like I'm a free adult. Right. And so I
Hmm.
honestly feel like we all have these different needs, and it's really starting to understand how to get in touch with what each of ours are. So to me, the resources are, they're all over the place. It's just what really fuels you.
I love that. And I just want to add like journaling has been a huge lifesaver for me over the years. And that's a great question, I feel, to like journal about. And what is it that
Yeah.
you need? Sometimes if I'm feeling anxious, is what do I need today?
Yes.
There's
Oh,
things
yeah.
that we need on a daily basis, and there's things we might need on the week, the month, or what is it that I need for this year? So I feel like there's different levels that can be addressed in that question, which I think is a very powerful question.
I love that.
And I think using that as a journal prompt to check in with yourself is
Absolutely.
because journaling is such a powerful tool. It sounds simple, but just having that space to unload all the mental clutter, because our brains are just jumbles of stuff.
Constant. It's constant.
And so when you have that space to just unpack some of that externally, and coaching and therapy do also provide that as well, to
Mhm.
give that like unpacking space to do that. But journaling also is a great tool to do that. So I really love that question, is what is it that you need? What is it that I need? And what do I need today? What do I need today to feel good?
It's so powerful. Or even thinking like, what has fueled me in the past? Maybe it was something
Hmm.
silly that you didn't even realize, but what was it that really kind of made me just feel rejuvenated and refreshed in the past? How can I tap into that again? Or what hasn't? What did I think was going to work and what didn't, so that I know kind of what direction to go in now. But I love journaling because I think that really does, it's overrated, I think, where we think that we can just solve everything on our own, or we can read a book and get answers. And the answers are inside. It's just finding the outlet to pull them out.
Yes.
So to your point, journaling provides that space. For me, I find this sort of meditative when I go for a walk. When I walk outside and I'm in nature, it's like I access sort of like what I say are like divine downloads. It's like I get this sort of freedom to think very clearly. I get clarity about things. I don't even have to try. It just sort of naturally comes to me. So I think we
Mhm.
all have our ways of accessing what it is that we need, but we have to give ourselves the gift of that time and space. And we deserve that. And I think sometimes it's even unpacking, why don't I feel like I deserve this? When we all
Mm.
deserve it, it's just really getting to believing that.
Yeah, and understanding what's behind your feelings. Why are you feeling this way?
Yes,
And really getting clear on that.
that's it.
That's really great, because we are our own resources.
Yeah.
And I love your answer and just tapping into that.
Yeah.
There is one resource I will add. There's a podcast I really like, called the Feel Good Podcast, and it's by Kimberly Snyder, and she's a nutritionist and she also teaches mindfulness. I love her podcast. She interviews people, she shares her own personal stories. She's a mom, she has two boys, she has her own business, and she has talked about her various struggles in life. And she's just, when I'm feeling crappy about something, if I just put that on and just listen, it's very helpful. And she had, her website's great too. She has a lot of great resources on there, and she has a community. She has like an app that has some free things on it, as well as there's like a subscription. I think at the time it was like 14.99. I haven't looked at it in a while, but has additional journal prompts and community oriented things. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I'll also put the link in the notes below,
I'm going
just
to add
as an
that to
additional resources.
my podcast list. That sounds fantastic. So I feel like you're the second person to mention her to me now that you said it. So I'm definitely going to add that to my list of.
She also has a book she just came out with. I'm going to grab it real quick. Hang on
Sure.
1 second.
Yeah.
I started reading it and life got a little busy, so I have to go back. But it's You Are More Than You Think You Are, is
Ooh,
her book that just
great
came out this
title.
year.
Mm,
Practical Enlightenment for Everyday Life. So
I'm
I
gonna
started
read that.
reading it and then I got discombobulated, but I am planning on going back to it. There's a lot of great journaling activities and just a lot of insightful things on it. So I highly recommend checking out Kimberly Snyder.
Yes, I will. I absolutely will.
Awesome. And before we go, what is the best way for people to connect with you?
Yes. So they can visit my website, which is shaynabergman.com. So ShaynaBergman, shaynabergman.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram, which is just at Shayna Bergman Coaching. Or anybody can certainly email me, Shayna@shaynabergman.com. And I love to connect with people, even if they're just curious, just want to talk more, just want to chit chat, whatever it might be. I love connecting with people. So I'm always happy to chat with anybody.
Great, awesome. And if you send me your links, I can put all of that in the notes
Got it.
below as well. So if you want to connect with Shayna, you can just go to the notes and easily click.
Perfect.
All right. Well, Shayna, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today. And I hope you have a great, well, actually, this is going to go on in September. We're recording this in July, but this is going to be coming on sometime in September. So I hope you do have a good rest of your summer, and summer will be over by the time this comes on. But thank you again for coming on and talking with us.
Thank you, Jennifer. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining, and I will see you soon. Bye.